Hello everyone, welcome back to the Speculation Station. I am your host, Captain Ketter. I'm joined today by Texas Hunnnibadger again. Say hello.
Hello.
As well as Bodhi. Say hi, Bodhi.
How's it going, everyone?
I know it's been some time since we recorded last. I want to thank everyone for their patience and lack of pitchforks. It's been very nice of you. My life has been kind of busy with lots of work projects and stuff during the season, so it's kind of what's been hindering the recording. But we're back at it today. We're going to talk a little bit about our World's predictions, a recent tournament that we had in Arkansas that I was able to take part in, and Bodhi was the TO of, and then we'll talk a little bit about, some ideas towards World's Fantasy Armada, which I think people have played before, but I want to make it a real thing this year.
Are you referring to the tournament that you won and Bodhi was the TO of?
Yes, there was no collusion, I swear.
Okay. No, you're being a little too modest. So, our very own Captain Ketter here won the Osmo, the Ozark Mountain Open.
Yes, it was, I think it was like 6 people, is that right, Bodhi?
Yeah, well, so it wasn't the Osmo, it was an Osmo monthly tournament.
My mistake.
That's why I'm a little humble.
Our very own Captain Ketter did get top 4 at the Osmo late last year.
I think I got second place.
There we go. I don't remember.
What'd you say, Drew?
You said you think you got second place, and I said Bodhi knows what that feels like.
Oof.
All right. Well, I'll just briefly go over my list and talk about that tournament. So I ran my Profundity with the Overload Pulse CR90, Hondo on that guy. And then my new favorite thing is to bring Liberator. I used to have a flag bridge on the Profundity, but it's much better on the Liberator that I can just blast with it and run away at speed 4. So, and it gives me the Intensify Firepower I need for roughly 1 turn. That's kind of been a major change in the list that's been super good. And then I tested out General Draven on a GR75, and it's actually kind of good. Like, a lot of the squadrons that you're going to want to not be shooting or going to have a difficult time taking out are going to be those with counter. So that includes stuff like TIE Interceptors that have they can, if they have Howl Runner, can be boosted up to 3, counter 3. And then a lot of the aces within the Imperial faction have counter. And then a lot of the heavy ships, so like ARC 170s and let's see, the Rebel freighter that has intel is like 8-hole. The Decimator as well is 8-hole and has counter. So all these things that have a high amount of hull, you can end up throwing double black at from a hull zone and just start to chew down enemy squadrons quite a bit. So General Draven is nice. Is he great? Not really. Like, he's situational, but he's 3 points, and he turns a GR75 into a double flak, and then you couple that with Torn, you can fish for an accuracy, which is kind of nice. So I think General Draven is kind of a win, but if I had an extra point in the fleet, I would have taken another officer. That's about the only other change that I made to the list compared to the last time. I mean, I had to put an Intel Officer. I do think Intel Officer on Smalls is going to be a kind of a big deal, like Intel Officer on Nebulons, and I would say TCR 90s, but that's kind of always been a thing. But on Architects, I think it's also going to be a thing where you put in like DTT for 1 reroll and then Intel Officer, and then you don't need the accuracy to show up. You just get take the Intel Officer and Intel the Brace, Intel the Evade, whatever you can, and then it makes the small ships way more effective at putting through damage without needing something like multiple ships shooting at the same target in order to stress the tokens. You can do that with just like 1 ship. So I kind of like it. I wish I had more points for squadrons or something, but the fleet works pretty well. I might take it to Worlds. We'll see. I'm really torn between a few of them, but overall it was a fun tournament. Bodhi, what did you take to the tournament? Because I know you played in a later game.
Yeah, well, Ben was sick. He had COVID, and he usually TOs our stuff. And since he was sick, I kind of stepped in to run things. I was kind of hoping to get some extra practice for Worlds, but we were 7 with me signed up, and so rather than dealing with a bye or anything like that, because we just do 2 rounds for our monthlies, and that felt like, especially we had some people travel in like you, and I didn't want to be like, hey, well, you lost your first game, so here's a round 2 bye. So I just dropped out and did some judging and that kind of stuff. I did get a pickup game after the tournament, and I've been working on some other versions of my Akbar double MC30 list. Currently, it looks like a small screen with Shara, Tycho, some Z's, and then I brought in a VCX just for make my second player options a little less sucky. And then 2 30s with veteran gunners, TRC, X-Rax, and then admonition and foresight. That game kind of, I know, it was a little one-sided. So he was playing a CIS list that was double large. It was Providence and Recusant with roughly 134 in squadrons. And he picked my most wanted, and I don't know exactly his justification for picking most wanted. Maybe it was just to avoid me farming off of fire lanes, but the clear option should have been just taking my intel sweep. Like, I get a flat 75 points, but you can definitely come back with that, or come back from that. But the way that we set up the obstacles, I was trying to place them in the center of the board so I could put my screen on obstacles and then wait for him to send his squadrons in, and then jump on them. But rather than like turning along the side and avoiding the obstacles, he just charged straight through them. So his Providence took like 6 shield damage from hitting rocks. And I basically one-rounded it with all of my shots. And then his Recusant, which was Patriot Fist, but it was kind of built as like, I don't know, he had some weird upgrade choices on it. He had, what is it? Not external racks, but expanded launchers, which is kind of a non-bow with Patriot Fist. But he sent it in close, and my MC30 just tanked the shot, just took it all on shields, and that really demoralized him. And I don't know if I would have killed it that round, but I definitely would have killed it on the following round. So I was going to table him with almost no losses, but he just scooped up his stuff. He didn't see any reason to keep playing. So I don't know. I feel like it probably wasn't the best competitive test because he was trying out some new things. And like I said, he had made some interesting game choices and had some interesting fleet choices that probably wouldn't be for like a real tournament list, but it was fun.
Okay. How many, just, you don't have to tell everybody, but how many different lists are you looking at? Because I'm looking at like 3.
Oh boy. Well, so I've got that 30 list. There's a couple different variations on the same idea that I'm thinking about. There's one that one with 4 activations, and then there's one with 5 activations that has a slightly smaller screen and brings in a slicer tools. I know, I kind of think, today I was starting to feel a little bit nostalgic for Separatists. They're my favorite faction. I loved them when they were bad. And So I'm kind of thinking maybe that there's like a version with Grievous and the Providence that we've seen all the time, and then there's a version with Trench on a Recusant, and both of them are roughly 134. So like that's kind of an option. I'm not really thinking about Empire. The main Empire list that I really liked playing just got ruined by the points changes, and the only Republic list that I would fly is Anakin. But I think I'm going to bring him for the the LCQ or the World's Prep event or whatever it is.
Oh, I haven't heard about this. Do you want to let everybody know what this is?
It's on the Thursday before Worlds. It's basically because there's no invite system this year. Instead of doing an LCQ, it's in place of that. I think there might still be slots open for it, but I don't know how many people are actually getting there early.
I had no idea.
It's just a slightly more casual 400-point tournament.
Okay.
I say slightly more casual. I mean, it's still at Worlds, but it's probably roughly like the LCQ. You just don't need to win it to get into the tournament because it's free entry or whatever.
Interesting. Okay. Hunnnibadger, how are you doing lately? Have you gotten very many games in?
Not really. I played so post errata update, October update. I think the first Galactic Tacticians League that Mercier hosts every year. Big shout out to him because that's a lot of fun. I think that was after the update. I'm pretty sure. And I played in that. I played a Radis list. First time I'd ever played Radis. It was fun. And the Vassal World Cup second chance. So I made the Swiss phase of Vassal World Cup, but they weren't going to do the new update. They were going to keep old lists. And I've just got such limited time, and there's also such limited time between now and Worlds. I dropped out so I could play in the second chance. But I dropped out early enough that someone could fill my slot. So that was good. But yeah, so I played in the second chance, which was with the update. And I played a Kraken list, a Separatist Kraken list that I think was fun. And I was pretty certain up until about a week ago, I was about 99% sure I wasn't playing Empire. And I was pretty certain I was either going to play Radis or Separatist Kraken. And then I just got nostalgic for Gar. And I was looking at my pizza party list, which got about a 6-point nerf or a 6-point buff because the victories went down 2 points each. And then I was also looking at like a Gar squadron list. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can make those work anymore, or what the meta is going to be like. Pizza Party might be okay if I get good matchups. It seems like a lot of people recently have just been running a light screen, and there's not a lot of 134 heavy bombers or something, and so that kind of makes me want to play Pizza Party. But knowing my luck, I'll run into Rebel Rogues and some nasty Cis bomber list and some Empire 130 or Sloan. And it'll just eat my lunch. So it's a lot in the air. I'm just kind of looking through things, and there's going to be another Galactic Tacticians League. I might try something new there, and then, Worlds is only 2 weeks away. 2 weeks from today, I'll be
Oh my
in
God.
Milwaukee. So I need to try and get some. Definitely need to try and get some games in. Try and figure out what I want to put on the table in Milwaukee.
What do you think? Go ahead, Bodhi.
I was just gonna say, you mentioned that you don't really know what the meta is going to be like, but I think everybody's in that boat. And we were kind of talking about this before we started recording, that it's going to be really interesting, just the environment that Worlds will be, because this, at least for me, will be the first tournament that I've ever been a part of for any game where the meta is this unknown. Usually, Worlds last year, we had half a season of store tournaments to kind of get used to the Onager nerfs and post Anakin world and all that. And that was my first kind of major competitive thing for Armada. But usually in like the card games and stuff that I play, the big tournaments will be a little while after a big set release. Or I know it's just interesting. It's kind of spooky.
I remember going into, I think it was like 2 years ago now, after the first rapid reinforcements with Anakin coming out, and then going into the tournaments with new Anakin being a thing. That was kind of frightening. I did some playtesting before that to try and figure out a list that I thought would work against it, but there was not much that could stand up to old Anakin. But I agree, this time around, I think it's going to be a lot of people who, if you can theory craft your own fleet and then know how to play it efficiently and well, then I think you can outperform people. So we'll see. All right, we can go around, and I would like to say we can go like to each faction and talk about what the most consequential change is, or what we think will be the most prevalent among the faction at Worlds. That's kind of something we talked about before, trying to predict what's going to be most prevalent. So let's start off with the Rebel faction, and then who wants to go first? Somebody needs to volunteer. We're gonna do commanders first.
I can talk about Rebels for a bit because that's kind of mainly what I've been playing.
Okay.
So there's the big three. There's Akbar, Radis, and Agate. And I don't know if there's going to be other commanders, obviously, but I think that these are the three that are performing the best, have been performing the best, and either got better or were not drastically changed by the update. So a few things that Agate got is the decrease in price on the Assault Frigate Mark II-A, which has just been like a classic Gallant Haven ship for a while. The double blue black is the main reason. And with those extra couple points, it offsets the change that she got as an increase, which basically just goes straight back into bid, or maybe puts like a new upgrade in or something. But it's you have to go and fight it. If it cannot go to you, but if you get trapped and you can't win the squad war, it just tears you to shreds. The other Agate list that I think we're going to see is with the Liberty, specifically Mon Carin. It's just it's like the modern day Onager in a way. Instead of using price for accuracy tech, you just have the title, and it ruins the day of most ships in the game. I think Radis is everyone's talking about him. He's the boogeyman. I feel like there's a lot of people that are saying that they're worried about Radis, and I haven't heard or seen a lot of people talking about that they're actually going to be playing Radis. I feel like there's a lot of I'm considering it because I know that it's good. But I wonder if there's actually going to be that much of it, just because I feel like a lot of people aren't going to want to play the quote best fleet. And then Akbar, He's super prevalent. He's super powerful. He's always been kind of at the cusp of the meta. I don't know if he's actually won anything, but he got second and fourth place at Worlds last year, and he's definitely going to be showing up again this year. Oh, I guess I forgot to say what Radis got. So Radis, as everyone knows, like a ton of his stuff got points decreases. And then for Akbar, the main one is admonition, going back to its pre 1.5 wording. The MC30 with foresight that a lot of lists like Truthinesses were flying, like it was already super tanky. But admonition, instead of just surviving like one shot, admonition can reliably survive two. And so it's just so much better for that close range brawly play style. And then if you're flying double MC30, then you just get access to both. So, yeah, it's good stuff.
Drew, what do you have any predictions for Rebels?
Yeah, I think MC30s are going to be everywhere. They're just too strong. Nah, I fucking hate that ship. Anyway, yeah, I mean, which admiral is going to win Worlds and why is it going to be Akbar? I don't know, but I'm trying to qualify rather, why Akbar got better, because it seems like he got a buff. Rebels just got more tools and options with all of their ships going down in points. So you might see some Akbar potatoes, like the Giga Drill kind of potato. You'll definitely see Akbar 30s and TRC 90s. They just have so much firepower at long range, and then so much defense at long range with their double evades, canceling out dice, Foresight and Admo. Like Foresight can cancel 3 dice at long range, and Admo can cancel 3 at long range. It's just gross. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. And I don't know what's out there now that can really go and get a 30. That's the problem, is you have to go get them. Because if you just let them circle you and pick you off at long range, you're going to lose that fight with their 4 dice guaranteed a double intel officer. You can't win that fight. And then if you run at them, they can just fly past you. They're the ultimate hit and run ship. They can go speed 4. Everyone just dials up nav on them anyway, and so you bank a nav token and then you nav dial for the rest of the game. You can go from 2 to 4 in GTFO. They're very hard to pin. People say just ram them to death. Well, you can ram them once and then they hop over you, or they ram you, you ram them, and then reserve or reinforce blast doors away that damage and then just hop over you. So it's a tough predicament. And I do also agree that the Agate Liberty, or Mon Cairn rather, is going to be a big one that people have to watch. I mean, my prediction's Rebels. It's Rebels tournament to lose. I think they're going to be the most played, and I think they're going to win, and I think they're going to have at least 50% of the top 8.
Wow, that's a pretty big number for the top 8. But I don't think I'm super surprised either. They have Maydeen showing up, which I know you guys probably would have talked about if we had referenced it earlier, but Maydeen on like all the Rebel ships is really good. He's efficient, and the positioning you can get with him is insane. But kind of what you were talking about with going speed 2 and 4 with MC30s, The same thing is true also with the CR90Bs. Nobody does this. This is the thing that I'm like trying to get people to do. Is you just take a CR90B and throw like SW7s on it, and then con fire, and then you put so much stress on somebody by doing 3 out the side, 3 out the front on one whole zone. They don't want to brace it because they're only canceling 1, and then they can't PDIC it and they can't evade it. So it's just 3 damage, 3 true damage both times. In my opinion, I think that is going to be the type of ship that's going to take like the top 2 places at Worlds. It's like something that can do that. If I were running the list, I think, I don't know. I say the top 2 at Worlds. What I mean is, if somebody were to take it and lean into it, I think it would win. It would do well. The other thing is that I do think that small and medium ships are going to see a much more bigger prevalence here at this Worlds compared to any other Worlds. There's always been a lot of MSU, but with the prevalence of Akbar and then also Maydeen coming out with benefiting all small ships in the Rebels, what you're going to want to do to fight against those is have the same size of ship, so that when you shoot them and they have to evade, they can only cancel 1 dice or reroll 1 dice, as opposed to chucking the evade, which they can do against larger base ships. And that's also why I think medium-based ships are going to be more prevalent, is because the same thing is true for going against larges. I think this is kind of the worlds where larges have the weakest position going in. If you're an ISD, you're going to really, really want to be taking gunnery team to this, in my opinion, because you're going to need to make your shots count. And with things being so fast and maneuverable as they are right now, whether that be like Radis or Maydeen, it's just going to be super scary if you're bringing like an ISD, something like that. You're going to need to have some beefy bomber squadrons, I think, to take care of anything in your side arcs. And this is also why we're going to bleed into Imperial here. This is also why I think Ramadi is in a prime position in this tournament, is because people are going to want to avoid your arcs out the front, or they're going to be so maneuverable and cagey that they're going to be out your side arcs, or just in a position where you don't like it. So the best thing you can do for yourself is put yourself in a position where you're going to be you can maneuver yourself to where you're going to have an obstructed shot from a lot of angles. And so when you set up the obstacles, you can kind of plan for this. And then, like I showed, I think I talked about last pod, but the interdictor with high capacity turbine engines, and then Ramadi shot out the side with disc caps gives you 6 dice. I think it's great, but I think that's something that's going to be necessary in the Imperial faction to deal with all this stuff coming out of the Rebels. So my prediction for like commander wise, what I think is going to be the most prevalent for Rebels, I think it will be Akbar in day 3. I think Kirsta is going to see a little prevalence, but mostly I would say like on like an MC30 is kind of the best spot for her. If you put MC30, admonition, early warning system, and expert shield tech on a MC30, you can effectively block 1 dice for every shot coming in. Expert shield tech can cancel up to 4 damage per round, and so you don't even have to worry too much about squadrons at that point. And then admonition can cancel dice outright. So any doubles you see that you can't evade and get rid of, then you can just cancel. And then you can also throw a brace on with Kirsta, so it just turns an MC30 into an absolute tank. But yeah, if you want to take these things out, step 1 I think is bring smalls that they can't evade, and then you can soak up damage through multiple hits. And then thing number 2 to kill them is just ram. If you're a small base ship with extra maneuverability, say from Maydeen, then you can position yourself to block out a lot of maneuverability from other ships and then take out smalls. So this could be a tournament where hammerheads get to see like a little bit of play, because if you take Maydeen, their maneuverability is just absolutely insane. At speed 1 and 2, they just have double click, double click. At speed 3, you can double click at the base and add in a nav, and then you can get some extra maneuverability. But just take a hammerhead at 36 points just for the ramming, not even for anything else. And then you get your utility out of that guy, and if he dies, he dies, as they say in Creed. No, it's not Creed. What is that? Rambo? Not Rambo.
Rocky 4.
Rocky. Yeah, I've only seen that movie once, so.
Me too.
I did want to kind of reiterate real fast. You mentioned gunnery team, and that's like the one card that really scares me. It's really gross specifically on liberties, because they have the double turbo laser slot, and they have 4 red dice naturally, and then they're getting an additional one from spinals, an additional one from Confire, and then their other turbo laser is probably going to be like XI7, which XI7 against a double redirect MC30 is pretty strong. So
yeah, and you're wanting to Confire to use Mon Carin anyway. So
exactly,
whether it's a dial or token, like I've never heard anybody bring this up, but I do think some of those things need to, like, you can only use one, right? Like, you can't use a Confire token and get your Confire and get your Mon Carin and get your gunnery team and get whatever else requires a Confire, Krennic, or, I mean, you can't put Krennic on Mon Carin, but you know what I mean. Ravager, whatever the title is for the SSD. Like, one Confire token shouldn't be that powerful.
I mean, I don't really have much of an issue with it. But if you're wanting to fight MC30s, that's the way to do it. It's just bring a whip, put gunnery teams on him. Get whacked.
I will point out, I think there's a rules interaction, and you guys can check me on this, but I think if you're cursed to a gate and you're going against Mon Carin, you can spend a token naturally, and then you can discard a token, and it doesn't count against Mon Carin because it's not a spend.
That's correct.
Same thing with admonition.
Yep.
It's a discard.
So admonition went from being untaken to now I think it's going to be taken far more than foresight.
Yeah, new admonition is super, super strong.
I don't know that it was untaken. It was untaken in a single MC30 list, but double MC30, like, admonition was stapled to every double MC30 list, just like foresight was stapled to that number 1 slot. Now you see admonition on the first MC30s sometimes. It's a trade-off based on what you want to do, but yeah, it's an incredibly tanky ship for the amount of firepower it has and for the amount of speed it has. And then if you put Agate on there and you get a brace, like, good luck. You're not killing it.
So in terms of commander, I think, are we all in agreement that we think Akbar is going to be the number 1 taken?
If I remember correctly, Akbar was the most popular rebel commander last year at Worlds. I could definitely see that happening again. I think there's going to be... I think Agate might be the most popular this year. She's a really de facto counter to Radis, because you can't shriv away Agate and you still get a similar effect to ECM. So I think she might win out just a little bit this year.
Yeah, I think it's Akbar. Akbar's so versatile in that you can fly kind of however you want and still use his ability. Large ships like the ISD or the Venator, Patriot's Fist, like they have... I mean, Patriot's Fist is different. It can kind of kite, but those other large ships have to fly at you because they have to get you in their front arc. And so they have to keep turning into you, and it's a very predictable flight path. But with Akbar, you can fly your Akbar ships at the opponent, and if they stay slow, then you just keep flying at them, and then whenever you get shot a couple of times or you get in close engagement range and you're uncomfortable, you just fly off, and then you can still turn and shoot them in the rear with your sides. Or if they fly at you really fast, you kind of fly at them and then you turn to where you're almost flying facing the same direction they are, but you slow down and then you let them catch up to you, and then they're still in your other side arc, and you're shooting them. So it's very, people say, oh, you have to know how to kite, know how to fly with your side arcs and everything, but I don't think it's as difficult as some people think it is, or some people make it out to be.
Okay, in terms of ship type, like let's say whatever like MC30s or MC80s, what do you think is going to be the most taken? Let's kind of, I guess we're trying to go through all the factions, so let's try and briefly say what we think is going to be most prevalent.
R75.
Well, okay.
Is that cheating? Obviously, every fleet that is in Rebels is going to have 1 or 2 GR75s. But I think that the whole podcast is in agreement that MC30s are really fucking good right now. So I'm going to be different, and I will say I'll say the MC75.
Okay. Drew, you're on the MC30 train with me, right?
Absolutely. If we're not counting flotillas, then yeah. I mean, MC30s have they kind of have a 2-ship limit at this point, like flotillas do. I mean, some people fly more than 2, obviously, but really good lists are only going to have 2. But every Rebel list is going to have a GR75. It's just too cheap, too versatile, too good. So, non-flotilla MC30.
Okay. How about in terms of squadrons? Let's see. I don't think there were too many changes, right?
YT 2400s.
Yep.
I don't think there were any changes that's really going to shake things up.
The Lancer going down 1 point is like really nice, but it's not near good enough to beat the YT 2400, I guess.
Yeah, you get
The
2 extra
2400
hull and an extra blue anti-squadron die. You're going to take the YT.
Yeah. It excels in all aspects. Like, it's slightly worse against ships, right? Because it doesn't have bomber. But that extra blue die against squadrons means a lot. And, you can one-shot 4 whole squadrons with a lot of things in this game. But I can't think of very many things. There might be like 2 or 3 that can one-shot 6 whole squadrons. And that's limited to like Grievous can do it because they don't have defense tokens, like Grievous Squadron. There's not a lot of things. And you have to get really, really lucky. So usually 6 whole squadrons are going to take 2, maybe 3 shots.
Okay. In terms of Imperials, there weren't too many changes, but my own personal opinion is that General Ramadi is going to be what you're going to want to take as an Imperial player. You're going to need the extra dice against a lot of ships, and when you're out of position, it's going to help you out so much more. Let's see. Admiral Sloan, I think, is going to see less play this Worlds than last, and I think it's because you have to do so much more work to make it happen. You have to win the squad war and then take out ships. So, in my opinion, I think Ramadi is going to be the most prevalent Imperial commander.
I think it's going to be Gergerod. I think he's going to be the highest placing commander, and I think he also might be the most prevalent, just because the small ship meta now requires maneuverability. If you're going to fly larges, you have to be able to maneuver and turn and keep them in your front arc and cut them off. And Jerry brings that to the faction, and so he's my prediction for most played and highest ranking.
Is that also because of SSDs?
I think SSDs fell off a bridge. I don't. If you're bringing an SSD to Worlds, more power to you. You're brave, and I applaud that. But I don't think we're gonna see very many SSDs. Maybe a quarter of what we saw last year.
In other words, please bring an SSD to World.
They lost a lot with the price change. Like that was what made the SSD a formidable force because
And LTT.
Yeah, because LTT was the best non-modification, and you would use your modification elsewhere. QTC, but price and QTC being able to reliably one-shot smalls, even at long range, like that was the build. There was nothing else that worked. So I definitely agree. SSDs didn't just fall off a bridge; they fell off a bridge and then drowned in the pond. And then, you mentioned Sloan. Sloan was the most played. Actually, I think she was the most played Admiral overall, like all 4 factions last year. And then getting 3rd place at Worlds with Jackson's Sloninger list. She was the most highest placed Imperial. I've been of the opinion that Sloan is not that good for a while. Just listen to my rant in the Imperial ranking commander video, but I don't know if she can pull it off this year. I think that there's going to be a few firm believers, and I think that German Sloan, the MSU variant, is still okay. But losing price kind of ruins Sloninger, and same with the huge increase in points to Squall. So yeah, I don't know if Sloan's going to be nearly as highly represented. I kind of agree with both of you. I think that both Jorgerod and Ramadi are going to be really powerful, and I think you both gave good reasons for why they will be. I was kind of thinking maybe Thrawn, just because slicers are much better now, and it's very difficult to actually interact with Thrawn styles with slicers. I don't know, and then Ozzel's also not bad.
Yeah, I think Oslo is going to be prevalent also.
I think Ozzel might be my vote. Like, well, you can't go wrong with most of these. Like, even Piet, people are making Piet work. So.
Yeah, that Piet SSD, did he win LSO last year? I can't remember. There was
I think it was LVO.
LVO, right. Yeah, I went to that, and that was a lot of fun to watch. It was an SSD that took first player, which is kind of unheard of among the meta. And that guy was maneuvering around, taking stuff out, deleting ships. It was a lot of fun to watch.
And then it would get like 4 shields back every round, or 2 shields back. Sometimes it would dial in token engineering. It was cool.
In terms of ship prevalence, let's see here. Just leaning into my Ramadi thing, I think that I don't know. I feel like interdictors are kind of in a spot where they're gonna shine because you can manipulate a lot of stuff, including ship speed, which may be a huge deal whenever it comes to the maneuverability of like MC-30s or other small base ships that are coming in at you. And then when you add in Ramadi, then you can pump out extra damage and control the other player's positioning. So I really want it to be interdictors for that reason, but I think the most prevalent one that's going to pop up, man, I think it's going to be an Imperial 2. So you can put this is going to be prevalent for a couple of reasons. It's got lots of balanced dice out the front and the sides. I kind of wanted it to be a Psy Moon, but the Psy Moon doesn't have the defensive retrofit that I think people are going to take. So I think it's going to be an Imperial 2 either with gunnery team or flight controllers, and then people are going to turn it into I mean, the way I would fly it is I'd throw local fire control flat guns on it with DBYs. And then I don't know about officers, maybe Riva and early warning system. So you could refresh your salvo and pump it a couple times so that whenever the smalls are shooting at you, then you can pump out damage back and guarantee hits with the DBYs. But that'll give you some versatility. If you add in Ramadi, then with the high capacity ion turbines, you're throwing 6 dice out the sides, 8 dice out the front, and then you're salvoing also every round. So I think that's a winner. I'm going to go with Imperial 2. Although, maybe a close runner-up is any Architons with Hand of Justice, because the points decreased on those is going to be kind of nuts. I think someone told me you can put 7 in a list now. It's just that's kind of nasty. We'll see how it goes.
I think that the Imperial 2 is the most small brain choice. Obviously, there's going to be Imperial.
Thank you, Bodhi.
You're welcome. All right. I've got the most based take, and it's going to be the Gladiator, because Demolisher is the best title in the game. That's what I would have said if Victory 2s weren't 80 points now. I think that this is going to be the year of the Vic. I think that they're going to come in full force, and the highest placed Imperial list will have one Victory 2 class Star Destroyer in it.
I love that choice, but I've been a fan of the Vic for a very long time. I feel like people are not going to be brave enough to bring it. I think it is a very good choice and a solid choice right now. But people,
cowards.
Yeah, people are. I mean, that's kind of sure, why not? They're cowards. They won't take a victory. It's only got 3 defense tokens.
You know what else only has 3 defense tokens?
Your mom.
God damn.
She only has 2 now.
That was a crit.
Damn.
She discarded her evade because I'm bigger than she is.
Carry on, Bodhi.
That's all I got. I think it's Drew's turn.
Gazani's. But yeah, other than Gazani's, I agree with the Gladiator, and I agree with the ISD too. I was looking at a list right now. If I were to fly Imperial, this is the list I'd fly, and it's got an ISD 2, a Gazani, a Gladiator, and 124. So, I do like the Architons buff. I just don't think that it's good enough now. The Architons just, if you're gonna fly an Architons list, you're just gonna fly Rebel Akbar. So there's really no reason to fly Architons Ramadi and have to try to make yourself be obstructed so you get the extra die when you just fly Akbar and you get 2 extra dice. And then if you're obstructed, oh shoot, I only get 1 extra like a Ramadi anyway. So I don't think we'll see very many onagers. Maybe more than last year, but I think we'll see more Vics than we did last year. But yeah, I think
one onager is going to make day 2, and it's going to be because people weren't prepared for it, and they got 2 9s or something like that, or that 110 from the person who wasn't prepared, and they were able to sneak in. But I don't think that there's going to be very many onagers. I think that the price change may have hurt onagers almost as much as the 20-point increase. They needed that accuracy, and now there's just really no reason to play it over a lot of other things in the game.
Yeah, I mean, you can bid for second and do Vermilion to get a guaranteed accuracy, but that's kind of weak. So I agree.
Do you guys think there's any shakeup happening over here in the squadron meta because of the points changes? I think that we could see more aggressors out there at speed 3, 5 hull, 4 anti squad, and a single anti blue with counter or anti ship black, counter 1 and rogue, 15 points. I don't think it's going to outperform the fire sprays, but I'm hoping to see more of that out there. I still think the most prevalent squadron is probably just going to be Jendon among the Imperials.
Wasn't he in every single Imperial list that had squadrons last year?
Yeah, and he always will be.
Yeah,
unless you're just flying a screen.
It was like Jendon, Vader, Steel, or Jendon, Steel, Vader, and then a fourth, and in that order of like popularity. But yeah, he was just in everything, and I think he's still going to be in everything. I mean, I would just make room for him in a list. Drop an interceptor down to a TIE fighter or something to keep him in there. He's just too good not to.
Yeah, I think that if we're talking generics, it's going to be TIE interceptor, TIE fighter, depending on what you have the points for. And if we're talking aces, it's going to be the same three that we've been seeing for the last 2 years. I do think that right now, just like having a 60-point screen is kind of really strong. So last week I had mentioned the ball that was Tail, Valen, Sienna, and then one generic. I think that we could see something like that, just because it's pretty difficult to dismantle that ball. But yeah, I mean, if you're playing Empire, you're probably going to have some form of squadron contingent. Empire really likes combined arms stuff. And if you have a squadron contingent, you're either going all in like the 110 to 134 range, or you're going small screen with just a couple ties, or maybe up to 60 points or whatever. So if there's Empire at Worlds, there's going to be squadrons in those lists.
Yeah, I don't think it's much of a controversy over who's going to show up for Imperials. Kind of a weak prediction to make. No hot takes here. All right, in terms of Gar, it's going to be Bale, number 1, right? Everybody? That's my opinion.
No, fuck Bale.
I think Bale got hit by the Mercy Mission nerf, to be honest. I mean, I was thinking about flying Bale, but it's kind of too hard to make him work with Mercy Mission now and an extra 5 points. So I don't think it'll be Bale. I think it'll be Anakin. All of the changes in the Gar faction were just pigeonholing Gar into Anakin. So all the eggs are in that basket, which is unfortunate. I think the Gar squad that will get played the most is still going to be Anakin. So you're either going to play Anakin Commander or you're going to play Anakin squad. I think there will be very few lists that don't have one of those two.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So I flew Bale 134 as Ven Consular at the big Osmo tournament back in October last year. And the issue that I ran into is that I couldn't get wins higher than 6s. And the only reason that I was getting 6s was because of Mercy Mission. And granted, Ven Consular, I had an 11-point bid, and there was really nothing else that I could even fit in the list. I was at max squadrons, and I was basically Christmas treed out on all of my ships. So I could have fit Mercy Mission in, even with the 5-point change. The main issue is that, like, the two consulars never wanted to be in engagement, and Vents just don't have the damage output to actually kill stuff unless you're putting it in danger and going to fight. Which it can survive a little bit, because Tranquility and Thermals. But I tend to be a bit too cautious for it, which is why I wasn't scoring very high. And I think that now the issue, because arguably the better Bale list is Ven Pelta Consular or Ven Pelta Pelta, and now you just don't have room for Mercy Mission on Ven Pelta Consular. Like, they were already tight on points. And so maybe you just play Ven Pelta Pelta, but it's then, like, I don't know. There's just, I think the list will show up, but I don't think it's going to be able to get big enough wins. I think that Drew was accurate that the best performing Gar lists are probably going to have Anakin in the commander slot, or it's going to be like a Yularen Quad Pelta thing with Anakin in the squadron slot, and then you can just play squadron farming objectives and have a bunch of Arc 170s to get your higher wins. Gar's in a rough spot, and it really hurts, but I don't know. I think, like, last year, the highest placing Gar was 19th place, I think. And I think it might be even lower this year. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if, we only get one or two Gar actually making it into day 2.
Yeah. We'll see. It seems like all the new toys that came out kind of came out for the other factions. Like, all the points reductions people are going to want to try and play with kind of came to other places. The Acclimator saw a points reduction, but that's not what it needed. It needed some significant changes that didn't have to do with points. Also, the points reduction on the consulars is going to be, it's really nice to have a 37-point ship that you can throw out there, blast with X-Rax or something, and then fly off at speed 4, kind of like you would like a CR90B. But I don't think the people who play Gar don't play this play style. So I'm not sure how prevalent this is going to be. Like, people who can do this are going to end up playing other lists.
Yeah, other lists just do it better. One change I think might have been interesting is if the Venators would have gotten a little bit of love somehow. I don't know really what you do with the Ven 1 other than give it a defensive retrofit, but maybe even give the Ven 2 a second offensive retrofit slot. And that opens up it being able to be a carrier a lot more. You can do like the classic expanded boosted scenario. You can do like expanded rapid launch bays, different things like that. But then you can also do like a SFAT and a flag bridge. So now your Venator does have a little bit more damage output, so you can flag bridge in the Mercy Mission and keep the Consular out of the fight. But I don't know. That's kind of way off topic for the podcast we're doing right now.
You could put together an LMSU list. I'm putting it together real quick, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consulars with X-Rax and Anakin on a Ven 1 with Intensify, and then you've got 30 points left over to like put upgrades on the Ven 1 or whatever. But it's not a bad look. The consulars have double blue flak, so you kind of chew up squadrons and then dump dice on the big ship and run away. The way you have to play that, though, is like a toilet bowl, and then start off with ships on the corners of the map, like going speed 4, and then eventually making it. And I don't think anybody has the patience to fly this kind of list. So, and then if you bring Anakin I guess you don't really need the Intensify. You could probably just bring in Shields to max. Or a Mercy Mission or something, but yeah, I think this is viable. Like, it's doable, but the first thing you need is enough core sets to have this many consulars and a Venator. And if you don't already have all that, there's a good chance that you're not going to find it. So you may have to resort to third-party stuff, which is legal now, right? I can't remember what the announcement. I think it is.
No. As soon as Worlds is over, you can use third-party stuff, but you have to use official things for this.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Then in that case, I don't think we'll see much Gar. We'll see somebody's going to bring an MSU with Anakin probably. What else? I think there's going to be the generic Bale 134 again. But kind of like Drew said, I don't really expect this archetype to make it very far. Pizza Party, I think, is an excellent position right now with how many like smalls are going to be flying around, and Spats, which are excellent against smalls. I think Pizza Party is going to be in a good spot, but otherwise, maybe the Arc Yularen fleet with the Peltas. I think that could chew up a lot of smalls as well, and then it's tanky enough they could take on the larges. And then with the fact that we probably won't see as many onagers and SSDs, I think a lot of small ships are going to be more viable at the moment. So I think at the beginning I said Bale. I think the one that's going to be the most effective among the lists is probably going to be the Yularen fleet that can just chew the Gar Grinder, I guess is what you call it, right? Gar Rinder.
Gar Rinder. Yeah, that's. I think that's probably going to be the most well positioned. The issue though is that it just loses to MC30s. So they just sneak into the back line and start showing stuff up. And I
think on your deployment you can kind of adjust for that, because a lot of times you can put like two Peltas moving straight and then two Peltas in the back line moving, and they're going to come out the side and do a swinging gate towards the MC30, and I think that can kind of alleviate what's going on and take out stuff that's going to be flanking. Anyway, in terms of squadrons, it's not really much of a debate at all. Anakin's going to be like the one to go to for the squads. So if you're bringing any squads, you should be bringing Anakin. Unless you're just doing his green, in which case you're going to take Axe Kickback, and then that might be it. Axe Kickback and a couple torrents with, if you want reserve, but I highly doubt it.
The main issue is that screens just don't really function in GAR because they don't have a 7 or 8 point equivalent like the other factions do. And so there's nothing that's like if you're delaying enemy bombers, you're doing so at a pretty hefty cost. And a lot of the times it's just not worth it. Like, I feel like you have to just go full squadless, which I feel like GAR does do fairly well compared to the other factions. Or you're going to do like full 134. There's not really an in-between.
Yeah, I have seen some people do it. I'm not going to say it was like entirely useful for them, but let's see. I think that's it for GAR. There's not much else to say, I think. The points adjustment for the ships is just, it's kind of like a you tried thing. Besides the consular, I think the consulars is actually going to be beneficial. The victory is not going to change much, and the acclimator is going to change nothing. So we'll see what happens at Worlds, but not expecting too much out of GAR. All right, in terms of CIS, we have a few changes. Count Dooku dropped in points. Admiral Trench, I think, dropped as well. Did he? I need to look at the sheet.
Yeah, Trench is now 32.
Okay. And then the Providence archetypes got decreased in points. So I think the Siths are in a really good spot right now. Their hard cells are beefy, like a Nebulon should be. They got plenty of dice. If you put Intel Officer on them, then you can just sling dice and then intel someone's evade, someone's brace, a big ship's brace, and then make people eat the damage. And I think the most prevalent commander is going to be Grievous. With the changes in the Providence and the ability to like just supercharge a tank with Watt Tambor or Beast of Burden and stuff, I think that's just going to be the most prevalent CIS commander by far.
I think the Grievous is very, very good. But honestly, it's really strange because I used to feel like none of the CIS commanders were actually that good. But it might have just been that the commanders weren't the issue, it's just the stuff in the faction. And now that we've seen some pretty drastic changes to the faction, I kind of feel like all of them have a chance to be viable. So Grievous is really good with the Providence, being able to cycle and use thermal shields for every shot, just by sacrificing some TIE fight or Vulture droids. It's tried and true, and I think that it has some good matchups into what a lot of the field is going to be. I also think that Trench, now at 32 points, in combination with some of the other points changes that we've seen, opens up a kind of a similar strategy. I think Truthiness is working on a list that uses a wreck and 2 transport card cells. So you get to command slightly more squadrons, but the main thing that it offers is slicer protection and being able to engineer or nav at the same time that you're doing squadrons. The token engine in CIS is very strong with Teaks and Rune, Hondo. There's 3 very solid officers in a faction that has double officer smalls. So you're very easily able to get the tokens where they need to be and double dial plus token on whatever your big large is. And it's extremely consistent. If you're doing either of those, I think that as cool as Django is, he might be a bit of a trap. I've kind of been looking at separatist lists, and the ones that I feel like are going to be, like, if I were to predict CIS squad balls, I think that 7 vultures and 7 hyenas is super solid, and then 5 vultures, 5 hyenas, Watt, and DFS, so you can get intel. I think those 2 balls are really spooky. But anyway, back to commanders. So those 2 commanders are going to head like the squadron division of the CIS. I think that Martuk, as much as I've kind of had some beef with him in the past, I never really could get past his downside. But Patriot Fist does really good against all of the small ships that we're going to see. It can pretty consistently one-shot CR-90s. It puts a bunch of damage on MC-30s. And with Martuk and maybe a couple of hard cells, you just have some really solid long-range damage output. And as the meta might be shifting towards close-range kind of combat, being able to keep yourself at red dice range and kite or just get shots in before they can actually do anything is going to be something that's really powerful. I think that Dooku and TF have some interesting strategies that opened up because of the new slicers. Dooku also probably just keeps doing the squadron thing because the generics are good in the faction. But I honestly think that a super killy TF list could do really well. On the day that we got the update, I tried a TF list with the only source of raid was the new slicers. And it didn't quite do enough. I think that it needs 1 or 2 B2s still. But still, like, it's super fun, and you can throw so many black dice at long range. And then finally, the Kraken Streaker strategy is super solid, and Drew was talking about earlier how he had a Kraken list that he was doing pretty well with in the Vassal World Cup Second Chance. I could honestly see any of the commanders performing, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see all 6 in day 2.
I'd be surprised if we saw TF in day 2. But that's pretty much, I think TF is the weakest commander. I like him. I really have tried to make him work. He can be a lot of fun, but it's just too much has to go into making him work. But yeah, I think Grievous is super strong. Just being able to have your Providence hang around, the Intel officer meta that I think we're in also, Grievous dominates because it's like, yeah, okay, Intel my brace, I'll still spend my brace, and I'll just chunk a 8-point vulture off the board. Martuk, I see what you're saying with the downside, and I don't know. I think he was kind of the best commander. I don't remember how I ranked him previous, but I think he was one of the best. I don't know if he is anymore. But Trench going down 4 points is going to be big. So that opens up more CIS squad play. And then I think Dooku's pretty solid, and I think people are starting to realize that. But so my prediction is definitely Grievous for the officer or the commander. I think he's going to be the most prevalent and the highest ranking. And then for a squad, generic vultures, I think are just going to be most of what CIS brings to the table. They fit in screens, they fit in anti-squad. But as far as an ace, maybe Flak or Watt or DIS. I don't know.
Whichever has the intel is the one I think is going to show up.
That one is DFS.
DFS, yeah. Now at 16 points. Like, at 18 points, I didn't really want to bring him. 18 points felt like a lot for what he brought to the table. But at 16 points, it's like bringing a Howl Runner in your TIE Fighter spam fleet. Like, it's so cheap, and it's got to be there. And then my generic pick is Hyenas. There's not a lot that like non-PDIC ships can do against Hyenas. They just shred. Like, if you have VCC there, 2 damage fairly consistently. It's very scary stuff. At speed 4, too.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the tournament, or the Worlds. We're going to see a high prevalence of Cis squads. I think that the LMSU variant, not to like call anybody out, but Hunnnibadger has an excellent list with it's, I think, super effective. But in terms of like 134 or something like that, General Grievous with a lot of Hyenas, DFS, and maybe a couple counter squadrons or something. But the amount of stuff you can put on the board for CIS has just increased with the points decrease of the Providence. And the Providence itself with a hard cell support ship with Beast of Burden is super survivable. And then my favorite addition to this recent change has been the flight controllers, Gazantes with Sandhill. So you can effectively send this guy off and then operate all your vultures, and then later on activate your Providence and activate all your Hyenas. So I think that's going to be the most prevalent archetype among the CIS, personally.
I think part of it comes down to the fact that because you're wanting to spam so many generics, you get so many deployments that lets you preserve your power piece for later. So, for example, the 7 Hyenas, 7 Vulture fleet, you get 3 ships. So it's either going to be a Prov or Recusant, and then you get 2 smalls, 2 supports. So it's either double Gazanti, but you're probably doing Gazanti hard sell or hard sell hard sell. So your first deployment is going to be either a hard solid or Zanti. And then you get 7 deployments of squadrons before, and that's like more deployments than most fleets have. Most of my fleets have 6 to 8 deployments. And the fact that you can reliably deploy 1 or 2 ships after all that, that's what gives these fleets the edge. So, if I were to give overall predictions, I think that there's going to be 4 rebels in the top 8. I think there's going to be 2 Empire and 2 CIS.
Top 8, you said 4 Rebel, 2 Empire, 2 CIS?
Yeah.
What do you think, Drew?
6 1-1, 6 rebels 1-1, or 5 2-1 maybe. But yeah, at least 4.
Okay. I think this is going to be maybe the time to shine for the CIS. So I'm going to say at least 3 CIS. I don't even think I'm going to put a GAR out there. I think there's potential if people, but I don't think people have play tested it enough to make it work. So, I mean, I don't know what everybody's doing out there in their garages and with all the tables and the games being played, but I don't think anybody's really running out there with 5 or 6 consulars and a Venator and trying to make that work. So I'll say 1 GAR just to save them a place, and then 3 or 4 rebels, and then 2 Empire. Let's see how many. What did I just say? I said 3 cis. Let's just go with 3 cis, 2 Empire, and 3 rebel. We'll see what happens.
Taking back the GAR.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, that was a hotter take than 6 rebels.
All right. Well, that kind of does it for us today. We're running short on some time, so we're just gonna wrap it up here. I want to thank you personally, to you listener, for sticking it out and hanging out with us. If you have any comments, you can leave it in the YouTube video description, or not description, YouTube comments below. Give us a like and subscribe on Spotify. Thanks for listening. Go ahead and give us 5 stars if you liked it, or if you don't like it, you can maybe put less, but maybe think about it kind of hard before you do that.
Hi, Lewis.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Take care. Get your practice games in, and just keep playing Armada.
See you in 2 weeks.